Hello, Hoops fans. Welcome back to Tips and Streams, your go-to spot for all things NBA betting. As always, it's your host, Kokan here, and I'm super excited to bring you today's jam-packed episode. We've got a thrilling lineup of today's NBA games, and I'm ready to dive deep with our predictions and insider tips. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just getting into the game, today's episode is tailored just for you. Stay tuned, and let's get into today's NBA betting predictions on Tips and Streams. The first today's prediction is for matchup between Orlando Magic and Detroit Pistons. As the season hits its stride, we're gearing up for a riveting showdown. The Orlando Magic, with a respectable 26-23 record, are hitting the road to duke it out with the Detroit Pistons, who've been on the ropes with a 6-42 record. This clash is set to be a spectacle of fortunes at odds. The Magic, riding a wave of momentum, bring a well-rounded offensive game to the table, netting an average of 111.65 points per game, just shy of the Pistons' 112.62. Yet it's on the defensive end where Orlando really flexes its muscles, holding opponents to 110.94 points per game, a stark contrast to Detroit's leaky defense that's been hemorrhaging points at a league-worst rate of 122.26 per game. Despite trailing in the win column, Detroit shows a slight upper hand in shooting precision, boasting a field goal percentage of 47.38% against Orlando's 46.85%, and outshooting them from beyond the arc 35.67% to 34.40%. The battle on the boards is nearly a dead heat, with Detroit edging out Orlando marginally, 43.32 to 43.08 rebounds per game. Detroit also takes the lead in distributing the ball, tallying more assists with 26.36 to Orlando's 24.71, a testament to their teamwork. Yet, these statistical edges haven't translated to victories for the Pistons, highlighting their defensive woes. Recent trends show Orlando's prowess against the spread, boasting a 4-1 record in their last 5 outings and shining on the road with a 5-1 record against the spread in their last 6 away games. However, their track record in Detroit is less stellar, with only 1 win in their last 9 visits. Conversely, the Pistons, despite their season-long struggles, have been sharp against the spread, going 9-1 in their last 10, and dominating at home with a 7-1 record against the spread in their last 8 games. Their home court has been a fortress against Orlando, securing 8 wins in their last 9 meetings. The head-to-head stats in Detroit lean heavily in the Pistons' favor, with a record of winning and covering the spread in 8 of their last 9 home games against the Magic. This suggests Detroit has a mental edge over Orlando on their home turf. Injury updates could tip the scales, with Detroit sidelined by the absence of key players Mike Muscala and Isaiah Stewart. Orlando, on the other hand, reports no injuries, potentially giving them the upper hand in terms of health. Despite the contrasting trajectories of both teams this season, Detroit's historical dominance and recent success against the spread when facing Orlando at home are hard to ignore. Odds makers have pegged Orlando as 7-point favorites, with a total points line set at 227.5. Given Detroit's knack for close games at home and Orlando's challenges in Motor City, a Pistons cover seems likely. Furthermore, given both teams' offensive and defensive stats, a lower scoring game than anticipated may be on the cards, making the under an appealing bet. In summary, while Orlando may come out on top, Detroit's home court advantage and track record against the spread when facing the Magic suggests they'll cover the 7-point spread in a contest expected to be tighter than the 227.5-point line suggests. This game promises to be a nail-biter, with Detroit's home court resilience and Orlando's search for consistency on a collision course, but the smart money is on Detroit to cover and for the total points to dip below 227.5. The next today's prediction is for the game between Phoenix Suns and Washington Wizards. As the NBA gears up for an intriguing showdown between the Phoenix Suns and the Washington Wizards, the basketball world is abuzz with predictions and analyses. The Suns, boasting a respectable 28-21 record, enter the contest with a solid offensive and defensive framework, evidenced by their average of 116.81 points per game and allowing 114.35 points against. Their field goal percentage stands impressively at 49.46%, with a three-point completion rate of 37.87%, reflecting their efficiency from beyond the arc. The Suns' rebounding and assists per game at 43.23 and 26.46 respectively further underline their well-rounded team dynamics. On the other side, the Washington Wizards, despite a challenging season with a .939 record, have shown sparks of potential. Averaging 115.02 points per game and conceding 124.04 points on average, their defense seems to be their Achilles heel. The Wizards' shooting accuracy from the field, 47.69%, and from the three-point line, 35.11%, trails behind the Suns, as do their rebounds and assists per game, with figures standing at 40.43 and 27.85 respectively. Delving into the trends, the Suns have been dominant in their recent matchups, winning 9 out of their last 12 games, a testament to their formidable form. However, their track record against the spread on Sundays raises eyebrows, standing at 0-5-1 against the spread. Conversely, the Wizards are struggling significantly, especially at home, with a 0-10 straight up in their last 10 home games, although they show a slightly better against the spread performance on Sundays. Injury reports add another layer to this matchup, with the Suns only missing Damian Lee, while the Wizards could be without Tyus Jones, Marvin Bagley, and Isaiah Livers, potentially impacting their depth and strategy. Historically, in the last 10 games between these two teams, the Suns have edged out as victors 5 times, covering the spread in 4 of those encounters. Specifically, in Washington, the Suns have won and covered the spread twice in their last 4 visits, suggesting a psychological advantage when playing away against the Wizards. Given the statistical analysis, team forms, and historical data, the prediction leans towards a game where the defense might overshadow the offense, keeping the total points under the 242.5 mark. Despite the Suns being the favorites by an 11-point spread, the Wizards, spurred by the home court advantage and the urgency to improve their dismal record, are predicted to cover the spread. The Suns' superior field goal and three-point percentages, along with their rebounding strength, make them a formidable opponent. However, considering the back-to-back game scenario and how teams historically perform under such conditions was not explicitly mentioned, it's critical to note that fatigue could play a significant role, particularly for teams with a dense schedule. I'm not keen on betting heavily on the Phoenix Suns when they're playing away, especially given their 18-29-2 record against the spread this season. Trusting the Suns in matchups where they're favored by double digits seems risky. Throughout the season, they've been favored by 10 or more points on 6 occasions, but have only managed to beat the spread once in those games. In summary, while the Suns appear to be the superior team on paper, the dynamics of NBA games, coupled with the Wizards' desperation to turn their fortunes around at home, suggest a closer game than the odds suggest. Expect the Wizards to put up a valiant fight, leveraging their home court to cover the spread, albeit in a contest where points might be harder to come by than usual. My bet is on the Washington Wizards to cover the 11.5-point spread, with the total points staying under 242.5. The next today's prediction is for the game between Memphis Grizzlies and Boston Celtics. Tonight's clash at TD Garden isn't just a regular matchup. It's a high-stakes battle where the soaring Boston Celtics take on the scrappy Memphis Grizzlies. The Celtics, with an impressive 37-12 record, are set to duke it out with the Grizzlies, who've been cornered at 18-31, setting the stage for an epic showdown between basketball behemoths and the determined underdogs. The Celtics shine with their laser-accurate shooting and impenetrable defense, hitting the mark with a 47.66% shooting average and sniping from deep, with a solid 37.92% from three-point land. Their prowess on the boards, snagging 47.31 rebounds per game, edges out the Grizzlies' 43.58. The Celtics' slick passing game, averaging 25-80 assists, showcases their seamless offensive flow. Conversely, the Grizzlies are braving stormy seas, especially with aces like Ja Morant and Desmond Bane out of the lineup, dulling their scoring edge to an average of 107.38 points per game. Their shooting efficiency is down at 43.86%, with their three-pointers landing at just 34.50%, underscoring the steep climb they face against the Celtics' fortress-like defense. In head-to-head matchups, the scales tip heavily towards Boston, particularly at TD Garden, where the Grizzlies have struggled, losing their last 9 visits and often failing to beat the spread. Yet, the Grizzlies have shown grit, with a 6-1 record against the spread in their recent games, signaling they're not down for the count just yet. The Celtics' dominance has seen cracks, especially in covering the spread in their recent home games, with a 1-4 record against the spread in their last 5 matches. This inconsistency offers a sliver of hope for Memphis, despite a daunting history against Boston at home. Injury woes add another layer of challenge for Memphis, missing key players that could have offered more depth and versatility in facing the Celtics' relentless machine. In comparison, Boston's health concerns seem minor, with only Luke Kornet's status in question, which barely dents their lineup. The tempo of both teams has been on the slower side this season. The Celtics, in their last 5 home games, ranked 22nd in the league with 97.80 possessions per game, whereas the Grizzlies on the road are just a notch above at 21st with 96 possessions. The Grizzlies, hampered by absent key players, have pinned their hopes on Jaren Jackson Jr. If the Celtics can contain him, Memphis's scoring woes will deepen. Expect a defensive showdown, with total points likely falling below the anticipated line. With the Grizzlies' lineup stretched thin and their scoring in a bind, they're likely to fall short of the 104-point mark. Boston's defensive might, matched with Memphis's offensive struggles, will likely keep the Grizzlies' points tally in check. In summary, bank on the Boston Celtics securing the victory, using their home court and statistical superiority to their advantage. However, the Memphis Grizzlies' tenacity and recent trends against the spread suggest they'll bring a fierce challenge, potentially influencing the final spread, but not enough to clinch a win. My prediction leans towards a low-scoring affair, with the total points staying under 224. The next today's prediction is for the game between Indiana Pacers and Charlotte Hornets. As the day draws to a close, the basketball universe zeroes in on an electrifying showdown between the Indiana Pacers and the Charlotte Hornets. Sporting a solid tally of 27 wins against 24 losses, the Pacers hit the road to take on the underperforming Hornets, who've mustered only 10 wins in 47 attempts, setting the stage for a clash brimming with tactical maneuvers and fervent competition. A glance at the numbers reveals the Pacers' knack for lighting up the scoreboard, boasting an average of 124.10 points per game, a clear cut above the Hornets' 108.59. This gap in scoring prowess underscores the Pacers' sharp-shooting efficiency, with a field goal percentage of 50.19%, overshadowing the Hornets' 45.88%. Moreover, the Pacers' superiority from beyond the arc, converting 37.73% of their three-point attempts compared to the Hornets' 35.69%, could be pivotal in spreading the defense thin and unlocking scoring avenues. The rebounding battle shows near parity, with the Pacers pulling down 41.06 boards a game to the Hornets' 41.04. Yet, it's in the art of playmaking where the Pacers shine, averaging 30.82 assists per game, a testament to their knack for setting up teammates, starkly contrasting with the Hornets' 24.98. Injury woes could tilt the scales in this encounter, with the Pacers potentially without stalwarts Miles Turner and Jalen Smith, and the Hornets missing Gordon Hayward and Mark Williams, alongside doubts over LaMelo Ball's participation. These absences, particularly for the Hornets, might deepen their quandary against a Pacers team hitting its stride. Looking back, the Pacers have clinched victories and covered the spread in just one of their last 4 visits to Charlotte. However, the Pacers' current momentum, juxtaposed with the Hornets' woes, hints at a possible tide turn. The Hornets' recent inability to cover the spread in their past 6 outings signals their struggle to stay competitive, more so against high-octane offenses like that of the Pacers. Analyzing trends, the Pacers have shown grit against Eastern Conference and Southeast Division rivals, auguring well for their clash with the Hornets. Despite their road bumps, the Hornets' woeful home and conference records offer the Pacers a golden chance to prevail and possibly notch a win. Weighing both squads' form, offensive and defensive metrics, and injury impacts, the prognosis favors the Indiana Pacers to not only triumph but also eclipse the 9-point spread. The Pacers' scoring finesse and seamless ball distribution should overpower the Hornets, plagued by inconsistency and defensive lapses. An over on the 243.5 total points also seems likely, given the Pacers' penchant for high scores and the defensive frailties of both teams. The Charlotte Hornets, despite frequently being cast as underdogs, have only managed to beat the spread 16 times in 47 games this season. In their previous encounter in December, the Pacers unleashed 144 points on a staggering 61% shooting accuracy. With early line movements suggesting Tyrese Halliburton and teammates are likely in play, the Hornets' dismal performance and spread-covering drought are set to continue. Indeed, the Hornets have not beaten the spread in their last 6 matches. In essence, anticipate the Indiana Pacers to assert their dominance and clinch a victory over the Charlotte Hornets, surpassing the spread in the process. Their offensive dynamism, coupled with strategic playmaking, is expected to be too formidable for a Hornets squad wrestling with injuries and form issues. My wager is firmly on the Indiana Pacers to emerge victorious and cover the 9-point spread. The next today's prediction is for the game between Los Angeles Clippers and Miami Heat. Tonight's face-off in Miami is not just any game, it's a clash of titans as the Los Angeles Clippers, flaunting a stellar 32-15 win-loss tally, take on the Miami Heat, who are not far behind with a 26-23 record. This match promises to be a feast for the eyes, with the Clippers leading the charge with their offensive firepower, averaging 118.09 points per game, dwarfing the Heat's 110.46. On defense, it's a virtual standoff, with the Clippers conceding an average of 111.74 points per game, just a hair's breadth ahead of the Heat's 111.58. The Clippers also boast superior marksmanship, hitting a 49.36% field goal rate against the Heat's 46.18%, and they shine brighter from beyond the arc, netting 39.25% of their threes compared to the Heat's 37.84%. In the battle for rebounds, the Clippers outmuscle the Heat with an average of 43.50 boards per game to the Heat's 41.50. The Clippers have been on a roll, with a 6-2 record against the spread in their last 8 outings, showing they're not just winning, they're dominating. Conversely, the Heat have hit a rough patch, with a 2-7 against the spread record in their recent 9, hinting at struggles to beat the spread. Historically, Miami has been somewhat of a fortress for the Clippers, winning 3 of their last 5 visits and never failing to beat the spread in all 5. Injuries might tip the scales, with the Clippers missing key players Ivica Zubac and Moussa Diabate, while the Heat's Duncan Robinson's participation hangs in the balance. Despite the Clippers' statistical superiority, their shooting efficiency, and rebounding edge, tonight's showdown is shaping up to be a nail-biter. The Clippers might be the statistical favorites, but the Heat's tenacity, especially on their home turf, is a force to be reckoned with. The odds makers favor the Clippers by 4 points, with a total points line set at 227. However, given the defensive prowess on both sides and the tendency for an under in recent games, this bout could end with fewer points than anticipated. The Heat's indifferent attitude towards the regular season is well known, often dropping games they're expected to win. Yet, with the Clippers in town, viewed by many as championship contenders, the Heat will likely step up, eager to prove they're still among the league's elite. This game is more than just numbers. It's about pride, making it a must-watch. In conclusion, despite the Clippers' formidable form, the Heat's home advantage and the Clippers' injury woes suggest a closely contested affair. Expect the Heat to exploit their defensive strengths and potentially cover the 4-point spread in a game where strategy might overshadow scoring. The smart money is on the Miami Heat to cover in what promises to be a defensively charged showdown. The next today's prediction is for the game between Houston Rockets and Minnesota Timberwolves. Tonight's showdown on the hardwood between the Houston Rockets and Minnesota Timberwolves promises a high-flying display of hoop skill and strategic mastery. The Rockets, posting a 23-25 record, are gearing up to leave their mark against the Timberwolves, who've racked up an impressive 34-15 win-loss tally. The action's going down in Minnesota, a fact that's bound to spice up the contest's dynamics. The Timberwolves are hitting the court with some eye-popping stats, outshining the Rockets with a field goal percentage of 49.05% to 46.20% and raining threes at a clip of 39.22% compared to the Rockets' 35.02%. This sharpshooting prowess from downtown, paired with their edge in dishing out assists, underscores their slick playmaking and tight-knit squad effort, key against the Rockets' slight edge in snagging boards. When it comes to recent face-offs, especially on their turf, the Timberwolves have the upper hand. In their last 4 home battles with the Rockets, Houston has managed to snatch victory and beat the spread just once, highlighting Minnesota's home court dominance. This pattern hints at a mental advantage for the Timberwolves, who've consistently clipped the Rockets' wings in past encounters. Injuries are throwing a wrench in the works for tonight's clash. The Rockets will be without Tari Eason, and the Timberwolves are missing Jalen Clark. Despite these setbacks, the Timberwolves' deeper bench and adaptability might just tip the scales in their favor over a Rockets crew still adjusting to Eason's absence. Betting angles add an extra zest to the mix. The Timberwolves are pegged as 7-point favorites, mirroring their season's solid performance and home turf edge. Both squads have displayed patterns affecting the odds, with the Rockets going 4-1 against the spread in their recent 5, yet often stumbling against the Timberwolves. Meanwhile, Minnesota's defensive lockdown has led to a trend of their games dipping below the total points line, especially against Western Conference foes. Taking into account the stats, recent form, and head-to-head history, the Timberwolves' sharpshooting, home court stronghold, and cohesive unit dynamics emerge as game changers. Plus, the trend toward lower scoring affairs, coupled with Minnesota's defensive stronghold, points to a total score likely falling short of the 222-point benchmark. Given the Timberwolves' home dominance and knack for quelling the Rockets' attack, alongside Houston's historic struggles in Minnesota, the tilt leans towards a Minnesota triumph. They're not just expected to clinch a victory, but also to outdo the spread, fueled by their on-court efficiency and the Rockets' road woes and back-to-back game struggles. Although the Timberwolves have seen some dips in their dominance, with turnovers and allowing opponents to linger, the Rockets aren't making a strong case at the moment, especially away from home. Minnesota's solid 18-5 home record and their track record of owning the Rockets in recent matchups, clinching wins in 8 of the last 10 encounters and covering the spread in 7, makes this a less favored bet due to the tight 7-point spread. Anticipate a game controlled by the Timberwolves, using their depth and strategic edge to clinch a victory, with the final tally staying below the 222-point mark. My money's on the Minnesota Timberwolves, not just to emerge victorious, but to beat not a 7-point, but a 6-point spread. The next today's prediction is for the game between Toronto Raptors and Oklahoma City Thunder. In the heart of Oklahoma City, a compelling basketball showdown looms as the Toronto Raptors gear up to clash with the Oklahoma City Thunder. This matchup promises a thrilling display of contrasting play styles, with the Thunder stepping onto the court as the clear frontrunners, boasting an impressive tally of 34 wins to 15 losses. This stands in sharp contrast to the Raptors, who have found the going tough this season, with a record of 17-31. The Thunder have been lighting up the scoreboard, averaging a robust 120.44 points per game, outpacing the Raptors, who have managed 114.49 points on average. When it comes to defense, Oklahoma City has been more steadfast, conceding 112.65 points per game, whereas Toronto has been more generous, allowing 116.60 points. A closer look at shooting accuracy reveals the Thunder's superior performance, hitting the mark with 50.06% of their field goals and 38.83% from beyond the arc, eclipsing the Raptors' 48.00% field goal percentage and 35.79% three-point success rate. However, Toronto has shown prowess on the rebound, grabbing 43.60 per game against Oklahoma's 41.46, hinting at a possible edge in board control. Examining recent form highlights a clear disparity. The Thunder have shown dominance, especially on their home turf, with a 9-1 streak in their last 10 games at the Chesapeake Energy Arena. Conversely, the Raptors have been struggling with a 1-6 record in their last 7 matches, and their road game has been particularly weak, with a 1-4 record in recent away games. Historically, when visiting Oklahoma City, the Raptors have held the upper hand with a 4-0 record in their last 4 encounters. This, combined with their ability to beat the spread in 3 of those matchups, adds a layer of unpredictability to the forecast. The injury list introduces another twist, with the Raptors missing Jonte Porter and possibly R.J. Barrett, while the Thunder will be without Isaiah Joe and Jalen Williams, and Trey Mann's participation remains uncertain. Anticipating the Thunder's offensive might against the Raptors' defensive frailties, especially in an away game, suggests a high-scoring affair. Trends point to these teams' encounters often exceeding the total points line, particularly in Oklahoma City, where the Raptors have seen the total go over in 6 of their last 7 visits. The betting line, which favors the Thunder with a 9.5-point spread and sets the over-under at 235 points, mirrors the expected supremacy of Oklahoma City and the prospects of a score fest. Despite the Raptors' historical prowess in Oklahoma City, the current dynamics and stats lean towards the Thunder's scoring efficiency, especially at home, putting Toronto's defense to the test. Nonetheless, given the Raptors' history of competitive play against the Thunder in Oklahoma City, they might not beat the spread, but the total points are likely to exceed 235. This matchup is poised for an energetic showdown, with both teams pushing the pace for a high-scoring game that surpasses the projected total. In essence, while the Thunder are favored to maintain their formidable home streak, the smart bet might be on the total points exceeding 235, showcasing both teams' offensive strengths and defensive woes. My prediction is a bet on the game's total points to surpass the 235-point mark. The next today's prediction is for the game between Milwaukee Bucks and Utah Jazz. Tonight's game is set to be a blockbuster as the Milwaukee Bucks, boasting a 32-16 record, roll into Salt Lake City to take on the Utah Jazz, who are currently at 24-26. This game is shaping up to be an epic showdown, featuring 2 teams with unique styles and strategic depth. The Bucks are entering this contest on the heels of a back-to-back, a scenario where they've shown brightly this season, notching a 6-1 record in such situations. Their ability to deliver consistently, even under the strain of consecutive games, is noteworthy, especially against the Jazz's strong home game performance. Despite this, the Bucks have hit a rough patch when it comes to beating the odds, with a recent performance of 4-13 against the spread in their last 17 matches, casting some doubt on their ability to come out on top tonight against a Jazz squad that's formidable in its home court stronghold. On the other hand, the Jazz, in peak condition and primed to make the most of their home court edge, boast an impressive 18-2 record in their last 20 home games against the Bucks. Their dominance in Utah has been remarkable, further highlighted by their recent 9-2 record in the last 11 home games. With no injuries to worry about, the Jazz are in a prime position for tonight's clash. Stat-wise, the Bucks lead in shooting efficiency, with better field goal and three-point percentages and average points per game. Yet the Jazz excel in rebounding and assists per game, indicating a team that plays well together. The Bucks' shooting prowess might be neutralized by the Jazz's control over rebounds and their effective ball distribution. Facing off in Utah has always been a tough battle for the Bucks, with just 2 wins and 3 covers against the spread in their last 5 visits. The Jazz's home court has proven to be a fortress against Milwaukee, and with the Bucks playing back-to-back, fatigue might tip the scales in tonight's game. Bookmakers are favoring the Jazz by a 1-point spread, with a total points line set at 246.5. Considering both teams' propensity for high scores and their almost identical defensive stats, a high-scoring affair is anticipated. The Jazz's home advantage and the Bucks' challenges on the road, especially in Salt Lake City, suggest the Jazz will not only win, but also cover the spread. An over on the total points is also expected, given both teams' scoring abilities and trends. In summary, the Utah Jazz are poised to continue their home court dominance against a Bucks team grappling with the challenges of a back-to-back schedule and a tricky history in Utah. Expect the Jazz to beat the 1-point spread, leveraging their home advantage and a fully fit roster. The game's total points are predicted to exceed 246.5, driven by the offensive strengths and defensive weaknesses of both teams. Bet on the Utah Jazz to win and cover the spread, with the game's total going over 246. The last prediction for today is for the matchup between Portland Trailblazers and Denver Nuggets. Tonight's showdown between the Portland Trailblazers and the Denver Nuggets is shaping up to be a masterclass in basketball artistry and tactical brilliance. The Denver stage sets the scene for a confrontation between two squads traveling different trajectories this season. With the Nuggets flaunting a commanding 34-16 record, their court dominance is undeniable, averaging a robust 114.84 points per game. This offensive juggernaut, complemented by a 49.37% shooting accuracy from the field and a 36.91% success rate from beyond the arc, showcases their scoring efficiency and sharpshooting prowess. Their teamwork shines through with notable averages of 44.12 rebounds and 28.78 assists per game, highlighting exemplary team cohesion and fluid ball distribution. Conversely, the Trailblazers are navigating rougher seas with a 15-34 standing. Their scoring, at an average of 108.49 points per game, doesn't stack up against Denver's firepower. Their shooting precision dips to 44% from the field and 35.46% from three-point range, while defensively they're conceding an average of 116.73 points to adversaries. Despite these hurdles, Portland has shown resilience, particularly in their ability to defy the odds, as evidenced by an 8-3 record against the spread in their recent outings, demonstrating a persistent ability to close the gap when underdogs. When the action shifts to Denver, Portland's historical struggles become apparent. With no victories in their last 5 attempts and only a single success against the spread. The Nuggets, in peak health and buoyed by a recent 6-2 straight-up record in their latest games, including a flawless 6-0 at home, appear unassailable on their turf. Meanwhile, Portland faces added uncertainty with the potential absence of key players Jerami Grant and Shadon Sharpe, yet their tenacity remains undimmed, especially when confronting the spread. Considering the team's performance in back-to-back games and past duels in Denver, the Nuggets' home court dominance is unmistakable. However, the considerable 13.5-point spread by the odds-makers suggests a glimmer of hope for the Blazers, who have recently shown a commendable knack for beating the odds in tough matchups. Portland's persistence and Denver's occasional slip-ups against the spread when facing division rivals indicate a chance for the Blazers to outperform expectations. The Nuggets, with their scoring prowess, efficiency, and stronghold at home, are naturally the front-runners. Nonetheless, Portland's trends against the spread, combined with Denver's spotty record in similar scenarios, propose that the Blazers could not only bridge the spread, but also tighten the contest more than anticipated. The anticipated total points, pegged at 221.5, points towards a lower scoring affair, reflective of recent forms and Denver's defensive strength at home. To wrap up, while the Denver Nuggets have the firepower to dominate, the real question is their drive, especially following a recent victory over the Trailblazers. Considering Portland's impressive cover rate in their last outings, including their latest clash with Denver, tonight's game promises to be a tactically engaging battle, likely keeping the total points below 222. This leans me towards backing the Portland Trailblazers to beat the 13.5-point spread.